I make a motion to open the Board of Assessors meeting. The time is 6 o'clock.
Yes. Second?
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And this meeting is being taped by the West Bridgewater Community TV.
Mr. Chairman, you don't have any appointments for this evening. I do have a couple of announcements and requests. As I stated before the meeting started, I am requesting a vote of the Board of Assessors to notify the town accountant to deduct $27,956.50 from the overlay account for the fiscal year 2018 senior work-off program.
Okay? Do you want to take care of that now?
Please, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, okay.
So if I could have a motion
One of the board members want to make a motion?
to that effect.
Yes, I make a motion to,
Expend $27,956.50 from the overlay account for the 2018 senior work-off program.
Okay. I second that.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Board.
John, one more time, 27,956.
And 50 cents.
Okay.
What's the, is there anything in the future, obviously that's an excellent program, we just talked about that. Is there anything in the future about a slight increase in the persons or the reimbursement? Have we kept it at that for a couple of years, you know?
You raised it last year.
Yeah.
Well, the statute requires that they be paid at the minimum wage. So that went from, I believe, $10 to $11. And I think you
Yeah.
authorized up to $30,000 last year.
I think
I think you
so.
set a threshold. So they
Cap, yeah,
They
okay.
stay below the threshold.
Good, okay, yeah.
And the Board of Selectmen and the Senior Center and the assessors usually have a discussion, either formally or informally.
Sure.
As to whether or not any increase in personnel is deemed reasonable. As I said, the hourly rate is mandatory, it's statutory, so.
And that comes out of the overlay, it's not the overlay particularly, does it come out of that fund, the overlay fund, or?
Now they're all combined.
Right, so that's, that.
As a result
So,
of the
yeah.
Municipal Modernization Act.
Well, down the road, obviously, I'm sure the board goes with me that it's an excellent program, and, if you're looking for down the road anyways, in a year or two, I don't know how often we increase it, the money or the person's participating, but it's a good program.
Yeah, I think 75 people that's quite a few people for a small town.
Yeah.
I don't think we get that many in the town of Wareham, even though it's advertised.
Is it about the same, like 30, about the same amount, or a little bit more? A little bigger town, so.
I think we probably only have about 30 or 40 people that participate in it. They used to have them at the town pier, at the parking lots, for the beaches in the summertime.
Yeah,
But people aren't volunteering.
And we had, how many, we didn't have 36, did we?
75.
75 people? No, I don't think so, was it?
Oh, I take that back, I'm sorry, 36.
36, yeah, 75
75
hours.
hours. I'll be all right. I have the planning board minutes of October 17th for the board's review, if anybody would like to read those. You had your classification hearing scheduled for 7 p.m. with the Board of Selectmen. And I am requesting the Board of Assessors authorization for me to sign your signatures electronically to any forms. I have a memorandum
absolutely, so we can expedite that,
prepared,
yeah,
if you'd be willing to sign that.
yeah.
I'm also, I will be requesting that the Board of Selectmen also authorize me to sign their names electronically.
Do you have that ability, or do you have to go upstairs to do that, or can you do it from here, or?
I gave a similar memorandum to the town administrator.
Yeah.
And he will present it, I believe, to the Board of
Sure.
Selectmen. Next year, it will be mandatory for the selectmen and the assessors to sign electronically. But the town clerk and I created accounts today for the Board of Selectmen so that they can sign.
Electronic signatures?
Electronic.
Yeah, right.
I did include a copy of the classification handout in your packet. I think I also provided a few supplemental documents. For example, the levy limit is $27,035,525, and the overlay worksheet shows potential future liabilities of $1,257,192. Those are all in the electronic package that you have on the gateway system also.
What was the, I was gonna ask you, do I have this new, this? So I have two of these now, right? You gave me a new one?
Yes.
No, this is okay, right? All right.
You have a new one, it's in color, and it has the page numbers in red in the upper right-hand corner. That's the latest update.
This is my new one.
So if you don't have one in color.
Oh, I got it right here,
with
yeah,
red
okay.
numbers
I got it
on
here, yeah, all right. That's good.
You may discard it.
Question I can ask before we, what was the, I saw the increases of parcel count and such, what was the growth approved for 19, FY 19? Is it here?
444,000, and I don't think I have that document in front of me, Mr. Chairman.
No, that's okay.
But it's
About 440?
444,000 in probably $500, roughly.
444.
Yeah, lower than the last 5 years.
Yeah. Well, I know a couple years ago, all those houses down on, off of Walnut Street came on, the farm.
Pearl Road.
Yeah, Pearl, yeah. Farm Road, Pearl Road, whatever it was.
And in the past, we've had more commercial and/or industrial construction. We had very little this year. It was mostly tenant fit-outs and 1 or 2 additions.
I'd like to, at some point, discuss that, either with the selectman or the town manager. I sit on the Tax Center Finance Committee, and we had the, with the JPAC, that worked out well for the town.
It did.
And, with our infrastructure and our excellent location of 24 and all that good stuff, I think we're, ripe or whatever, to try to promote that and get some more, business in here. When they started that, I don't know, it seems like what, maybe 7, I'm not sure, 5, 7 years ago, I thought by now we'd be rocking and rolling, I know when I was working in Brockton, we for a while, we were second in the Commonwealth to Worcester and TIFs and those old STAs. Back then, it was meant for urban plight and such. Now they grant the, right, in any viable area. But I think we have to get more proactive with that stuff.
In your bills payable, there's one item I want to bring to your attention. It's a $10,000 bill from Co-File.
Which is the one I have right here. I was going to
Yes,
ask you about
yes.
that. I was waiting for my turn.
That's the one. That is for the reproduction of the assessor's records going back to the 1800s. It's records preservation. That's actually not a billable amount against the assessor's account. Once you authorize this bill will be passed on to the CPA committee, and they will pay for it out of CPA funds.
We will.
That was a town meeting authorization
Yeah.
to expand.
That's definitely, those CPC funds are meant to preserve, we've done it for the clerks and such. It's a good use of the community money.
I think the town clerk was authorized $10,000 and the assessors were authorized $10,000. Both offices are.
We were doing that a little bit at a time with the
preserving our
clerk, yeah,
records.
right.
Exactly.
All right, so this bill, even though it says it's for us to sign, we're not paying it.
You're authorizing the payment
Right,
from
but it's not coming out of our
CPA
budget.
funds. Correct. We don't have that kind of money, unfortunately. Otherwise, I think you have bills from the Registry of Deeds and a couple of motor vehicle excise commitments and a boat excise commitment.
Okay.
And, I think that's it for my announcements and updates, Mr. Chairman, except I'll make you aware that I don't have any minutes for approval for this evening. So I think that takes care of all of your business. In open session, I do have a couple of items for the board's discussion in executive session before the board makes a motion to go into executive, I would just ask the question, because you have a classification hearing at 7 PM, would the board want to go into executive session and reconvene in open session at 7 PM at the selectmen's meeting room, or would you simply want to go into executive session and not come back into open session? And then when you're upstairs, make an announcement that you're opening the classification hearing, assuming that you'll have more than a
Well,
quorum.
Isn't that their deal upstairs to do that, though?
It's their deal, but because if there are more than 2 members of the Board of Assessors there, I'm just concerned that.
We haven't done that before upstairs.
I understand, Steve, but I'm becoming more and more sensitive about the open meeting law. And since the board has had a couple of complaints in the past, it's a subject that might be ripe for a complaint. So it would be a preventative exercise to either adjourn this meeting at the end of executive session and then reopen your meeting upstairs, or come back out of executive session into open session at 7 PM at the selectmen's classification.
Yeah, and that's fine, hopefully, we can, not come back and open.
Either way,
But I mean, I'm not exactly privy to the nuts and bolts of that, but upstairs, aren't we under their session and their,
yes.
it's their classification hearings, we've been invited to present,
Yes, sir.
so why do we have to open our meeting upstairs then?
Well, I think John's just erring on the side of caution.
If there's more than 2 up there, is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm doing, Mr. Chairman.
So every time we go in front of them, regardless of what it is,
I would say if there's a majority, you might be,
So just if we're going as a board,
You might be-
because if it's just like one person, that's different, but if the
Right.
group of us are going, you're just suggesting that to err on the side of caution,
Yes.
which makes
the
sense.
circumstances are, this is a classification hearing. It's advertised by the Board of Selectmen. The Board of Assessors are required by statute to make a presentation, and it says Board of Assessors, it doesn't say an individual member. But to your point, yes, if you went up at any other time, any other member of the Board of Assessors to make a presentation, you might not have to do that. I'm saying under this specific circumstance, it might be wise. I'll give you an example, Mr. Chairman. The Board of Selectmen had a hearing on some policy on alcohol licenses, and I understand it is being reported in the local newspaper that there was a complaint filed against the Board of Selectmen because they didn't specifically state that they were going into a vote on a policy. I'm not sure what was said and how it was said.
that's got,
But that's just an example. Now the selectmen,
but that,
my understanding is,
that's what the selectmen's bad, not with, somebody speaking on, for the, I guess the selectmen are the licensing, authority, but
it's just my thought, Mr. Chairman. I don't want to belabor the issue. Like I said, and I apologize for repeating
okay,
myself,
it's just,
in the context that the board has had 3 complaints against it.
yes, and all of them
You
went
wouldn't find
nowhere,
another-
but, all of them went nowhere, but they were down here concerning, our meeting, the board of, we're invited upstairs, and again, it's no, if we do it, that's fine too, but I'm saying, I don't know if we're under that umbrella down here when we go upstairs. It's their meeting, we've been invited.
Okay. I don't have anything else, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Uh,
So we'll go to executive session, and we won't reconvene into open. So I'm gonna get out and look at some of the stuff in your office.
So a motion would be in order to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing applications for abatement and any pending appellate tax board cases, and not to reconvene in open session.
Okay. I second that. All those in favor?
That should be a
Yes.
point.
Yeah,
That's
okay,
my
well,
recommendation.
okay.
Yes.
So your motion, your second.
Yeah,
Roll call,
we'll
please.
call, Sessa Bunker,
Here.
Smith,
Here.
McCarthy, yes.